Conversations with Garmamie. We are joined by Michael Arthur of MikeTheAgent.ca. Michael, I should say, is a real estate agent here in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. How you doing?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm doing good. I have a few questions for you in regards to your world of residential and commercial real estate. First one is, what is the CARE principle?
The CARE principle, Garmamie, is something that I developed where it's sort of in a sense like a marketing tool just to make myself unique and distinctive from other real estate agents. And the CARE principle starts as like this. C starts for customer service, right? And as a realtor, I need to get to know what my client wants, not what I want, what he or she wants or needs in terms of their housing needs. Some real estate agents, based on my experience and talking to other clients that came to me, they don't care about their clients. They just care about themselves because they don't want to get paid a commission, where they will pressure a client to buy a house that has a host of problems, or pressure a client to buy a house that has numerous deficiencies such as cracked foundation, mold, broken windows, stuff like that, and they don't disclose that information to the client, so that client makes a well-informed decision. So that's where I come in terms of customer service, getting to know them, their personal life as well, so that I can cater to their needs based on what they tell me, and I find them the right house based on that discussion. A stands for the analysis. As you know, I analyze the market like crazy. I post every month, monthly market updates on Facebook, other social media platforms, as well as my clients, because I want to keep people well informed about what's going on in the Ottawa market. Because as you know, the Ottawa market is changing constantly, week by week. And it's important for people to get up to date on what's going on so that they can make a well-informed decision of when they want to buy, or they want to stop, or they want to sell their home, stuff like that. So, and then I'll go to ours talking about relationships. Relationships are very important because it's important to establish to your client that you are trustworthy, you're honest, you are objective, and at the end of the day, the main goal as a real estate agent is to protect the buyer's or your client's interest at the end of the day. No matter what, you're protecting their interest because you're representing them, you're representing their needs, you're representing their interests. So as a professional, you have to demonstrate that with good ethics, good qualities as a realtor. And at the end of the day, you have to demonstrate your professionalism towards them so that they can refer you to other business, other opportunities, and stuff like that, which has happened to me many times. And then E, sorry, the E stands for education. This is a critical one because a lot of people, buyers and sellers, they're not well educated enough about the home buying process and the home selling process, because at times they deal with an agent who doesn't give them the necessary knowledge that they need to make a well-informed decision of how they want to sell their property or what they need to do to buy a property. So education is very important because I've seen horror stories where people have made mistakes buying a property at a higher price, which they shouldn't have, or hiring an agent to sell their house where at times it's not sold and it's been on the market for a long period of time, or it's sold below their expectations where they lost money because the seller agent was not equipped or didn't have the expertise and didn't educate or teach their seller clients of how to properly sell their home.
Really, really cool principle. Just wanted to follow up in regards to that. Which one of those elements, and I know this is a tough question, but which one of the CARE elements do you think for you personally is the most important in order for this thing to work, in terms of this thing being your relationship with the client?
I think the key thing, to be honest with you, is education, because education involves acquiring the knowledge that you have learned through courses, through successful real estate agents, through other people or other people's mistakes as well, right? And then you use that, and also coaching and training, and use that experience to provide that knowledge through honest advice to your client. So, because especially first-time home buyers, they're not well equipped about what's going on, what to do. They're confused. So that's why I have a buyer consultation through Zoom, and I educate them about the process. And then after my discussion, I'll send them documentation about the home buying process from point A, from A to Z. So education, I think, is the key, because education will cover C, A, and R. It'll cover the customer service, the analysis, as well as the relationship as well.
Again, I think this principle is a really interesting and important one, in terms of establishing that relationship with the client. And as you mentioned, education is a key component, and we'll dive into that. I appreciate that you mentioned education, because I think adjacent to that is the theme of financial literacy, which more and more people, regardless of whatever demographic they might be, if they're millennials, if they're seniors, I think that theme is always an important one. I think you would agree.
Yes.
But one last question in regards to this care principle, which I'm a fan of that, because I was looking at what other people in your industry put out there right away in terms of what their statement is, and I found it interesting that you put that front and center as a guiding sort of a principle, essentially. How has this care principle benefited your clients?
Oh, tremendously. In terms of exceeding their expectations, in terms of meeting their needs, in terms of getting what they want at the end of the day. And at the end result, they're happy. They're happy what they want. And then out of those experiences resulted in referral business. They refer their friends, their family members, co-workers. It has worked out for me big time.
Now, Michael, obviously, I tend to interview a lot of people in the martial arts and the creative arts and what have you. And I know of you from that community. And
Right.
when I bumped into you and I heard that you were in the business of real estate, I was like, wow, that's really interesting. Mainly because I was coming at it from, this guy's into combat sports. He's also in real estate. I guess the next question I'm going to ask, it's a personal one.
Okay.
You don't have to answer if you don't want, but how and why did you get involved in real estate?
Well, it started where how I started in real estate was that I used to have a townhouse. I lived in it. My first property was my townhouse, and I was single at the time. And I saw friends on my street, good friends of mine on my street, where they renovated their basements and converted them into in-law suites. So I took upon myself to say, you know what? I'm a single guy. I have a basement in my townhouse that has a walkout. Why don't I convert that into an in-law suite where a person can use that rental apartment as accommodation, especially affordability, because housing affordability in Ottawa is a big problem, as you know. So I said, why don't I convert that in-law suite, provide accommodation, and get rent from that, building rental income to pay down my housing expenses. So I use that type of experience, or that type of knowledge I acquired through my friends, to make that happen. Because in no sense, yes, I'm making money. At the same time, I'm providing affordable rental accommodation to someone who needs it. Right. So that's how I started in real estate. And then from there, I use equity in my house, the townhouse at the time, to buy another investment. That's like my first real estate investment property, the in-law suite. Okay. And then after that, I used some of my money in my equity to purchase an investment property in Canada. Then I sold that. I held that for about 2 or 3 years. I made good money from that. Then I used that money again to buy a bigger home for myself and my wife. And then now that actual townhouse is a rental property right now. So I have two levels, upper, lower level, and it's going well. Cash flowing very well. We're happy with we have great tenants. They're responsible. They pay the rent on time. It's great. It's great. And then how I became a real estate agent was that as a real estate investor, I noticed in a lot of discussions with experienced real estate investors, they noticed that there's not enough investor-focused real estate agents in Ottawa. So I took upon myself to say, okay, let me get educated about this, become a licensed agent, and help real estate investors look for positive cash flow properties that meet their personal needs and financial needs. So that's how I started to get into real estate. Yeah, and it's been a dream of mine to have my own business as well. So.
Right on. Thank you very much for sharing that. Just want to dive into the next topic here. I saw a news release by the Ottawa Real Estate Board that was put out on the 3rd of December 2020, of course. The title reads, "No Sign of Slowdown in Ottawa Real Estate Market." It goes on to say that members of the Ottawa Real Estate Board sold 1,611 residential properties in November through the board's multiple listing service system, compared to 1,284 in November 2019, a year-over-year increase of 26%. I guess where I'm leading with this is, in your opinion, excuse me, how has COVID-19 impacted real estate here in Ottawa?
Ottawa, to be honest with you, based on the trend I've been researching and what has happened when even before COVID and during COVID and then sort of post-COVID, it's been stable, actually, to be honest with you, because what's benefiting Ottawa is that there's several factors, okay? The federal government is one of the main employers, major employers in Ottawa, as you know. As you know, that sector is doing well. They're hiring people, actually. They're still hiring. They're not cutting back like the private sector is in certain businesses or small business, but the federal government is stable. The job market there is stable. High tech is stable, okay? Also, you have infrastructure projects such as the LRT, as you're fully aware of. There's other projects happening in Vanier, in where I live in Ottawa South area. As well, you have a lot of interest from people who live outside of Ottawa who are buying real estate in Ottawa. Case in point, Toronto. People have a lot of money from Toronto because they sold their houses and they're buying houses cash, right? You have people from Vancouver, Montreal. You have foreigners, actually. I've been getting a lot of calls from foreigners asking me if there's any, they're looking for opportunities as well. So there's a lot of buyers, there's a lot of demand in Ottawa for housing because of its competitive price point compared to other major cities or urban centers in Canada. As well as the unfortunate thing is, but it's helping sellers is that there's a low inventory of houses for sale in the market, which is driving up prices, unfortunately, right? So.
Interesting. As far as, so you're mainly talking about residential real estate.
Residential, yes.
How about commercial real estate?
Commercial real estate space, to be honest with you, what's happening right now, there's a demand for multifamily properties. Commercial multifamily properties, including residential in those properties, is like 6 units and up or 5 units and up, depending on the mortgage lender that you're dealing with. A lot of investors are looking for opportunities like that. There's a limited supply of multifamily properties in the Ottawa area, and that market is going to do well. That particular segment of the market is going to do well. Commercial real estate, in terms of office buildings, there's some interest despite of what's happening in COVID, people working from home. But I think down the road, long term, I think people will be coming back into the offices, and I think there'll be demand for more office space eventually, because people psychologically, they don't want to stay home working from home. They like to interact, socialize with their coworkers and stuff like that. So I don't think commercial office space or commercial office real estate is going to die. I think it's going to be there for a long time, long-term wise. That's how I see it.
How does Ottawa compare to, say, other major Canadian cities?
In terms of commercial real estate?
Residential.
Residential, Ottawa's up there in terms of stability, a stable housing market. Yes, Ottawa is up there. In terms of prices, Ottawa's starting to creep up there, not close to Vancouver or Toronto, but it's starting to creep up a bit from what I know.
Now, speaking about Ottawa in particular, which parts of the city are selling like crazy?
Oh, Canada, Barhaven, Orleans. You have the semi-rural areas of Bell's Corners. You have Arnprior. You have some parts of Ottawa Valley, such as Carleton Place, Perth. You have actually Constance Bay is popular too because it's low. It's a low price. They have low housing prices there. You have Cumberland. You have actually Navan, Rockland, Limoges, and Embrun. Those are growing areas too, for sure.
Now, in terms of who's buying and who's selling, can you tell us the demographics of these individuals based on what you've seen and who you've interacted with?
Yeah, a lot of the sellers who are selling the homes, most of them are baby boomers, because they want to downsize and move into a low maintenance type of home, whether it's a condo or a townhouse, because all their kids are gone. They're empty. Basically, they're empty nesters. So they don't want to pay for wasted space. So might as well downsize and find something that's more manageable that meets their needs. So you see a lot of that happening. You have a lot of young families or growing families who are moving or looking for or buying actually properties in the semi-rural and rural areas of Ottawa because they're looking for a bigger space to accommodate their big family, as well as workspace to work from home due to COVID as well. You see a lot of demand, which I've been seeing lately actually. I have clients who are first-time home buyers who are looking to buy homes in the Ottawa area. They're looking at affordability. Even those from Toronto, they're interested in buying in Ottawa because the price point in Ottawa is competitive. It's more reasonable than like a Toronto or Vancouver, for sure.
Now, how much time would you say you spend daily researching? Because it's from what I've seen of you on social media, you're very active. You're doing a lot of that education piece as far as the care principle.
Yeah.
And how much would you say on a daily or weekly basis you spend looking at the stats and assessing?
Stats. Based on percentage, I can say between 50-60% most of the time, looking at stats, what's going on out there. Yeah, because the market's constantly changing, right? So you need to try to be on top of things in terms of which neighborhoods are selling well, which neighborhoods are low, which neighborhoods there's a lot of demand for housing, stuff like that. Yeah.
Right on. Now, we hear this a lot. We as in, like, I've been seeing a lot of headlines about, quote unquote, why aren't millennials buying homes? What's your opinion on that? Are they buying homes? Why aren't they buying homes?
The factor contributing to that, Garmamie, is affordability. Honestly, affordability. Because as you know, housing prices in Ottawa are starting to climb up, and the banks are not lending out a lot of money to these millennials to buy property because of concerns of COVID, or they're concerned about the fact that there's a high number of mortgage deferrals. So they're trying to protect their investment, where they're trying to restrict the amount of lending they give to millennials, because they feel that millennials are new in their jobs. They might lose their job depending which area which occupation they're in, as well as they have put a lot of restrictions in terms of the amount of money they want to lend out to people, like investors, even first-time home buyers, and stuff like that. That's what's been happening. It's all about affordability, to be honest with you. Based on what I've been seeing, yeah, it's affordability.
So based on that, what sort of advice, if any, have you given or would you give any millennials who say would want to purchase a home?
I advise them that don't become house poor, where you buy a house at a higher price that is basically close to your maximum budget of affordability, right? Start small. That's one piece of advice. Another piece of advice is build up as much savings as you can. Okay. Another thing you should do is, if you like, it's a good option. I've seen it from some clients, is if their parents are willing to give them some money as a gift or as a loan to help them with the down payment, as well as for them to take advantage of some provincial and federal government incentive programs. Case in point, you have the home buyers plan where millennials can use their RSPs up to $35,000 as a source of down payment to purchase a property, their first home. A new measure called the First Time Home Buyers Incentive Program, where the federal government will give first-time home buyers up to 10% in addition to their down payment to help them enter the housing market rather than later. They can enter the housing market sooner.
What are some of the mistakes sellers make?
Wow.
I know that's a loaded question.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot. Okay, based on my experience is that number one, they don't hire the right agent because they don't ask the right questions, right? They don't ask the agent in terms of scenarios. What happens if I don't get any offers on the house? What happens if my house is on the market for a long period of time? A lot of them, they don't, sometimes those listing agents or seller agents will not tell them that, or the sellers won't ask them those specific questions. And that's where education comes into play, okay? Another thing is that sometimes sellers, they don't present their house well at all. Presentation is important because it generates the wow factor in which a buyer is willing to pay more than the listed price. So presentation is important because I've seen cases where there's a lot of clutter. There's photos of their families and all this, and it smells, the smell, dog stuff, urine, it's disgusting. So they're not well prepared at all, and then it basically reduces interest in the house. So these are some examples of where sellers make a lot of mistakes. And another mistake that they make is that they think that they know what the price, how much their homes is going to sell for, where in reality, we present them with the facts and figures, right? But they still won't listen to you. They think that they can get the price more, they can sell the house for more money than you recommend to them because of greed. They think they can make more money, but they don't realize that their expectations are unreasonable. Let's say that.
Interesting. Now, as far as buyers, what are some of the mistakes you've seen?
Sometimes they like to go over their budget because they love the house. They're very emotional. They love it. They want to buy a house, but they don't realize that it's close to the maximum of their budget or how much money the bank is willing to lend them money to purchase the house. That's one thing. Another thing is that they don't get the pre-approvals from their bank before they see the house. I always ask the buyers that, have you been pre-approved for a mortgage? They said no. I said, okay, before I show you homes, please get yourself pre-approved because I need to know how much you can afford to buy a house so that I can send you houses for sale that's within your budget, right? At times, they don't get their finances in order. Sometimes they will change jobs at the point of them getting approved for a mortgage, and then they don't get approved. Or at times they will buy a major item in which affects their credit score, right? They make their purchases using a credit card or line of credit, which builds up their debt, and it affects their ability to get more financing from the bank. They might get some financing, but not to the level where they can have the ability to buy a home. That's some of the common mistakes that buyers do.
Now, I would imagine you actively coach these people in terms of ensuring that, as far as the E portion of the care principle, right?
Oh yeah, no question about it.
Yeah, and generally, are people receptive to that information?
Oh yeah, they love it. They said, "Oh, your presentation is great. I keep myself well informed. Thanks for the materials." Yeah, I get a lot of compliments because it's important for them to be well informed about what they're getting themselves into. Because you have to understand, as you know, buying a property is a lot of money, and you don't want to misuse that money in which you put yourself in a difficult financial situation where you could become house poor. And then you can no longer afford the house, for instance, in which you can file for bankruptcy. And I've seen that. I've seen that many times. Or people could constantly refinance and they build up their debt, in which the they have financial issues at the end of the day. So education is critically important.
Now, one last question for you. I appreciate your time. And it's late at night, and we're doing this interview. But one
Sure.
last question for you is just tell us a success story in terms of testimonials of former clients of yours that have.
Okay.
Just share some of that.
Oh yeah. Recently, I think you saw this in my post on Facebook. I received a great testimonial from a couple, Luke and Shannon, and they were first-time investors, and it fell in line with what I'm an investor. So I sat down with them and I walked them through the process of how to analyze a potential investment property. And this is one of the core principles of real estate investing for everybody who's watching this segment here. When it comes to analyzing a property, always focus on the numbers and remove your emotions, because the numbers tell the story of whether or not this property is a good deal or not. I've seen stories where people say, oh yeah, it's in a great location, the features are great, this and this, and then they have negative cash flow, and then they're forced to sell the property, or they have to invest or make renovations to the property to try and get positive cash flow. So because they were emotionally attached to the property instead of looking at the numbers to justify whether the property was worth the investment or not. So always focus on the numbers and remove your emotions. That's one of the core principles of successful real estate investing that I have learned, and I have learned from successful real estate investors.
Really interesting. Now, where can people find you online? Social media, website. Plug away, please.
Sure. You can find me. You can go to my website, miketheagent.ca, MikeTheagent.ca. You can call me at 613-890-7653. My email address is michael@michaelbarthur.com. You can connect with me on my socials. I'm on Instagram at MikeTheAgent613. Same thing with Twitter. I have a Facebook business page as well. It's Michael Arthur Real Estate Ventures. Yeah, that's where I am.
Right on. Thank you very much for your time, and have a good night.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.